Member for Peace River North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored today here to offer a bit of a follow-up, or maybe part two, to my colleague from Shuswap. My grandmother, Marguerite Davies, was living in Comox as my grandfather was posted there in the Air Force during the Second World War. After the war, she and her young family headed north in 1949 after hearing of the many opportunities in the peace country. She arrived on the train with her family to start a new life in the mostly unheard of village of Fort St. John, population 1,400. Fort St. John was not much more than a main street, and if you can believe, there was only one lawn in the whole community, and the only pavement was at the airport. After being in Comox and from Ontario originally, this was quite different than what she was used to. My grandmother quickly got engaged in the community. She was active in the Presbyterian Church, the Literacy Club, and the local Writers Guild, writing poetries and plays and winning a provincial award for Best Original Script. Almost all of her writings were to do with the North Peace. In September 1963, a group of residents, including Edith Kyllo, grandmother of my colleague from Shuswap, were interested in preserving the history of the North. They organized themselves as the North Peace Historical Society, and the first meeting was held at my grandparents'. Years later, the group built the North Peace Museum, which is still standing today. My grandmother was also a founding member of the Public Library, as well as an active member of the Women's Institute. Over time, my grandmother and the member of Shuswap's grandmother became good friends. My grandparents were stellar people and dearly loved Fort St. John, and with a love of the peace and its rich history, my grandma wanted to preserve that history, and similarly, so did Edith. Working with some other friends from the area, including Cora Ventress, they worked together by compiling many stories and biographies of the peace, and as mentioned, they created the book in 1973, The Peacemakers of the North Peace. It captured our history forever. But more importantly, it captured the incredible stories that the peacemakers made that make our community today. Now, as stated, it is quite amazing that here we are 50 years later, my colleague and I, sitting in this chamber, a set of grandchildren from a couple of amazing grandmas that many years ago created an incredible lasting legacy today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A coincidence is an example of two things relating to each other or having some connection that was unexpected. And today I have a rather interesting coincidence to share with this House. It begins with my grandmother, Edith Kyllo, an amazing woman who had a significant impact on my life. Born and raised in Vancouver, Edith became a school teacher, but has always had the desire to be a pioneer. So she took a job teaching in Hudson's Hope, where life was, well, just a bit more primitive. She taught in a one-room schoolhouse with a small living quarters at the back. Grandma lived without electricity, hauled her own water, cut and split her own firewood, and spent a lot of time working with her hands. She taught grades 1 through 8, shaping young minds, long before the creation of the term class size and composition. She also helped form the North Peace Historical Society, based in Fort St. John, and was asked by her friend Marguerite Davies and Cora Ventress to collaborate on a book paying tribute to the pioneers of the peace. In 1973, Edith, Marguerite, and Cora co-authored The Peacemakers of North Peace, a compilation of history and biographies of pioneers from the areas north of Peace River. What Edith and Marguerite didn't know at the time was the connection their grandsons would forge decades later, because Marguerite Davies' grandson sits right beside me in the legislature every day. What are the chances that of the small percentage of people even elected to this place, their two grandsons would be among them, and that they would also happen to be seated next to each other in the People's House? It's a strange coincidence, but we both believe our grandmothers would be very proud to see us here, just as we are so very proud of them and their many accomplishments, including co-authoring the book, The Peacemakers of North Peace.